Hey guys, welcome to my another session for today. And as you know, we are discussing a series of topics wherein I'm taking Nikon D5600 as a camera. So we are talking about some basic settings. So this is a continuation video to our yesterday's session that happened live on Facebook. So again, this is the continuation part of the same session. So yesterday, what we did, I'll give you a quick recap of what was that session all about, what we discussed. So we discussed about how to switch on the camera, how to switch off the camera, the video recording button, the exposure, this is the another button. Then the dials we talked about AF lock, we talked about info, we talked about the diopter settings, we talked about the menu, we talked about the playback, we talked about the information, the OK button, delete button, plus minus, these sort of icons. Sorry, it's yeah. So we talked about lots and lots of things. So any questions are there? If you're having something in mind, so you can write to me in the comment section. I can answer it then and there right now. So before we begin this session, so I'm trying to keep these sessions as light as possible, maybe in such a way that it is easily understandable by many, and people can adopt these settings and can definitely help me learn. They can help from my experiences what I have. So guys, am I audible or not? I'm not sure about it. If you can just send me some message, some kind of a thing that I'm pretty much audible to you. I'm not sure. If I'm audible, give me a thumbs up or something. Or if I'm not, then something can be done, maybe some network issues or something. So am I audible to you? In the messenger section, you can write me up that yes, I'm audible, or my voice is not clear or something. Right. So in today's session, what I'm discussing here, so as I said, okay, so before we begin this session, I hope I'm audible, right? So let's go with some of the settings that we discussed yesterday, like fine, large, the type of bracketing, HDR. Now once you talk about bird photography, these settings are not applicable, bracketing, etc. What settings I use is spot metering. So go to the metering section, and not the metrics, not the center weighted, but yes, the spot metering is the thing that I use. Auto area focus, if you talk about, so we use single point autofocus. That gives me an edge. Right now, focus mode, what I'm using is not continuous, because the camera will start to hunt and that might give me trouble. So I prefer, instead of auto servo mode, I prefer single servo autofocus, AFS. Color settings, definitely I use vivid. Now as you can see, the ISO is changing. Yeah, with the light, see the ISO is changing now. So am I audible to you? So just give me a kind of a signal that yes, it is audible. You can write in the comment section yes or no or something. Am I audible? Voice is not clear, display is not clear, something or the other, so that I have some idea. So if nothing is there, I hope I'm audible, right? So we'll continue with the same session again. So this will be a very short session. So we discussed about the dials. We have like manual mode, we have aperture priority mode, we have the shutter priority mode, we have program auto. Now to begin with the basics, so I mean how a person should start photography. So start with the green, that is the auto mode in this camera. Click, the flash will pop up, and then you can use it for your liking, for clicking some photographs, etc. However, there is trouble also, which I would like to explain in the same video, that once you are using a big lens like 18-140, then this flash will create a D mark, because the light will go from this part to, and the reflection of the lens would be there. So if you are taking an extended photo at full 140mm zoom, it is pretty much okay. But if you are taking photos at a lower focal length like 35mm or so, you will face some trouble, because the lens is going to get a dark spot on the bottom. The lens reflection would be there. Let me show you a sample photo, how it is happening and how to basically avoid it. There is also one more thing. So let's take a sample shot. We'll go to live. Let's keep the subject like lens cap becomes our subject. click, it's on auto mode right now. So 1/60th of a second. 1/60th means the shutter is very slow, right, depending on the light. And since this flash is also popped up now, as I said, because of the longer lens, it is going to create a D mark or that kind of a thing. So with a photograph I can help you explain it out. Okay, this is the photo which has been clicked, right? This is the photo. So can you see in this area there is some darkness? So this is because of the longer lens, right? So using internal flash with a very low focal length, I clicked it on 18 mm and that was the result. So I would not recommend using this setup. However, if you are talking like we are using a 35 mm or a 50 mm with a slightly longer distance, things would be pretty much altogether slightly different. So let's say we take the shot of this. Now you can see it is 1/60th. As I'm increasing the length of the lens, you can definitely see the f value changing. Take a note of this. 3.5 ISO at 3200, so it is detecting ISO at 4000, again ISO at 2500. Depending on the light situation, the ISO is instead of playing with the shutter, the camera is playing with the ISO in auto mode. So we increase the focal length, it goes to f4.8, 5, 5.3, 5.6. so that is the maximum this length, and you note the value of ISO, which is like 6400. So let us take this bottle as a test subject and we'll fire a flash. Now here I'm using a flash. Notice the shutter speed has gone down to 1/20th. Okay, so now take a look at this. Now see the difference. Now there is no D light or there is nothing doing because the distance between the subject and the camera was too high. So basically I practice a lot using these kind of stuffs. Cost, well, that varies on market to market. So depending, you can check the Nikon site and Nikon dealers. If you are having a budget under, see, I'll be honest with you, there are two parts. If you're talking about the cost, one is the camera body and one is the lens. Now if I'm talking about this 140 mm lens, this itself is a thoda sa bit costly affair, right? Now if I talk about the body, so approximately this setup should cost you somewhere around 50 plus, to be honest, along with 140 mm lens. But if you are going for a 1855 mm lens or a 7300 lens, things would be different, right? So I hope I have answered. So now again we are coming up to the main setting which I love, that is, in today's video I'll be talking about the auto ISO, right? So as you can see what is the role of an ISO, I'll explain you right now. So if the light is less, right, if the light is very less, so how to get a bright picture? There are multiple ways to do it. The first and foremost is to use a flash. See, I have popped up a flash. The camera detected the light is less and it has opened up my flash to compensate the light. Second, I am increasing the ISO, right? And the third one is I am increasing the exposure value. I'll give you a live example. Let us take the camera to manual mode first. I'll come step by step to auto ISOs and those things. So the camera is in M, it's in manual mode. Now everything is in my control. Now I want a shutter speed of 60. You can see this line, plus minus. It is detecting that photo will be underexposed. So this line would be underexposed. The plus side would be overexposed. Okay, so what is underexposed and overexposed? That's again slightly technical. If a photo is dark, much darker than what you can see, it is underexposed photo. If a photo is much brighter than what you can see, it is overexposed, right? Okay, now how this balance works, so I'll show you. See, I'm just moving the dial. I'm trying to change the shutter speed. So this is my shutter speed. I can do it in two ways, either by using this dial, or I can use a touch screen also like this, and I can set the value in this camera. This is touchscreen enabled machine. See, it works. So I can do both the ways. So whatever makes you comfortable, you can use it. So I'm selecting, let's say, a shutter speed of 1/125, 3.5. The ISO is at 5000. I'm not using a flash now. See, the flash is not being used, and let's try to take a picture right now. The same subject, we have this Nikon lens cap 1/125. It has detected ISO 6400 to be good, and I have taken a shot. Let's press the play icon and check. Yeah, pretty much okay. Whereas if I increase the shutter speed, right, let me come back again. Now look at these settings. Okay, now this live mode also plays an important part. So this is the setting, the camera, what it is doing, it is being displayed. If I press this, the live mode will be on. So I can see from the mirror is up, and I can see, what the sensor is going to look at. So again, if I talk about like 1/125th, I'll increase the speed to, let's say, 320th, maybe 400, almost twice. I haven't changed anything. Notice the ISO value is changing. This is because the auto ISO is in place. So again, I'll take a shot. Just a second. Yep. And see the difference. Now this is one photo, this is another photo. Now see the difference. Look at the colors. It is kind of overexposed, it is kind of balanced. So this is with experience that you will learn that how to make things look better. For me, second photo, this is a much preferred photo compared to this one. It is all is white and things like that. See, the Nikon is there and everything is white, and in this you can see somewhat balanced. However, what played a major role here is auto ISO. Okay, now how to set auto ISO? So for new learners, it might be slightly challenging. So just press the menu icon, right? Again, we'll do the menu. So we have a playback menu where we have delete, playback folders, right? So how to select it? Press this left right button and you can select the menu, or you can use the touch screen also, both ways. So delete, playback all, playback display options, etc, etc, etc. We need not to go to these menu as of now, right? However, I am coming to, let's say, the shooting menu, which says reset shooting menu, storage folder, file name, image quality, image size, raw recording, ISO sensitivity, white balance, picture control, lighting. I'll be covering each of these topics individually as per the requirement. As I was saying, ISO. So the second option, and here we comes to the ISO part, and we click this. ISO sensitivity, you can see there are multiple menus. So this is the manual control. You can set it at, minimum ISO, what you are looking at. Maximum ISO, what are you looking at? So I keep it at minimum base value at 100. Auto ISO, if I keep it off, now see the difference. Again, the shutter is 400. I haven't changed anything, just the ISO. The meter indicates, light meter, that it will be an underexposed picture. It should be dark, technically speaking. So yeah, we are going to click now, and you should get so this is an image. You can see it's all dark. So it's black. There's nothing, right? Here there is something because the ISO worked. Here image number 26 is dark because the ISO was not up to the mark. The shutter speed was too high. Basic principle of photography is to maintain a balance between aperture, which is this value. Now if I have to the shutter, and the third one is ISO. Now if I want to take a picture, I need to reduce my shutter speed. So what I'll do, I'll just reverse dial. So I'm reversing it up, right? And look at this, I'm coming at 1/60th, 1/120th. Okay, so now the picture should come and it should not be dark, keeping the ISO at 100 only. We'll take a shot. It will be shaky because it's too slow speed for the camera. And see the difference. So this is how the picture got clicked. You can see very well, it's there. Very low shutter, black because the shutter was high, and optimal picture, the auto ISO played. Now again, I'll simply click the auto ISO settings. I simply press the menu button and I come to this part like this, ISO sensitivity, click auto and select it to on. See, my experience with this Nikon D5600 says that I might be wrong or right, I'm not sure, but yes, for me 6400 ISO is good to go with this camera. Anything above this would start producing a grainy image, right? So 6400 is ideal for this camera. As you go for some top-notch pro cameras, this value will go at a much higher. With my Nikon D500, I'm already shooting at 10,000 ISO and above. So to be honest, yes, this is a good idea, and you keep the ISO at maybe 3200 is good, 6400 is still good. Keep it at auto. Idea behind, so if there is a bright daylight or something, you reduce the ISO to 100. The lower the ISO value, the sharper the image would be. The higher the ISO value, the more grains image would be having. So that's the basic principle of setting up the ISO. Right, so or maybe you use some other sources of lights like external flashes, external lights, maybe an inbuilt flash, a TTL flash, or you put an external flash on the hot shoe mount and can do lots and lots of experimentation. So photography is all about balancing the light and getting images to the sensor. So this was my ISO setting topic for today, and this I did on manual. However, it can be done on aperture priority also. So you see, I'll give you an idea how it works. So if I'm pointing my subject to a brighter part, you see the ISO value at 640. If I'm taking it to a darker part, it goes to 2500. ISO is automatically setting again 1000. So you can play around with different subjects, and if I zoom in, it has increased the ISO to 6400, right? So this is how, and the image is pretty much, so you can see the grains also. See the grains, so it will be a grainy picture now. 1/30th is too low, and let's see what we got. So we have got a picture, but it is grainy. So the idea behind this exercise was to keep a basic understanding of ISO. This is basically for people who are very new to photography, who have been asking me questions. Abhinav ji, need to do some sessions, so this is part of those sessions only. So this was aperture priority kept at auto ISO. We'll be doing how to do complete manual control of the camera, how to do shutter. So basically, as I said, about 3 settings. So I'll give you a very, very rough idea. Here all settings are in my control. I can do the auto ISO, yes, it is there. 1/125, I can increase the shutter. You can see this value is going, right? I'm just turning this dial and it is working. 1/160 at 3.5, etc, etc, etc. It is in my control, right? Manual control. Whereas in aperture priority, this thing will be in my control. F value 3.5, 4, and it will compensate. See, okay, now some people have been asking me what is F value and what is this all about. So I'll give you a very, very basic idea how lens exactly works. So let me take out my lens for that matter. This is the lens, right now it's there, and you can see there is a small opening. The lens I'm using is a Nikon 18140, 3.5 to 5.6. So this is the value. This is it can go from 3.5 to 5.6 and above. So this is it, and once I try to change the values, it will go like, see how the opening. So these are the blades which will help the light pass from the lens to the sensor. So you can open it up and close it up. So that's how the camera is electronically controlling these settings for you. In low light, it will be something like this, right? So let's say more light is entering the camera, it's like 3.5, right? So let's say it's a 3.5 wala value, and in 5.6 it could be somewhere around like this, 5.6 or something like this or something, right? Low light is coming 5.6, 22 or maybe above. So that could be, I'm not sure for the physical and technological interaction, but yes, the basic principle is if 3.5 is the value, it's a much wider opening and the light would be there. So in a broader daylight, we do 3.5, and as the light increases, it's a bright light or something, I'll go for 6.3, 7.18. Usually, the sharpest photo will be at, so maybe in my case, it could be there's no scientific or thumb rule, but yes, if the camera says at 18 mm it is 3.5, you just step up to, let's say, 4. This should give you an optimal, sharp photograph at 4.5 f and 1250 ISO. Whereas if I increase the value to, let's say, 35 mm, which is good for portrait, you can see already it is. I try to lower down, it is not going below 4.2 because the lens is not supporting it up, right? So ideally what I'll do, I'll simply increase 1. So 4.2, say we'll go to 4.5, 5. So 5 should be a value for 35 mm, f5, depending on the lights that I have, depending on the auto ISO that I have, depending on the shutter I have. In aperture priority mode, the shutter is not in my control. As I said, see, ISO is getting controlled up, etc, etc, etc. And if I increase the length much, so as I'm increasing, see I'll show you live. So as I'm increasing the focal length of the lens, the shutter value is changing. See, the camera is automatically determining what is right and wrong for proper exposures. So it is changing the ISO, keeping the f value as static, and it is changing the shutter speed. You can see. Now why it is doing it? Because depending on the type of subject we have. On a darker subject, see, 1/6 f. So it has reduced the speed because it's a black subject and I have shut down my flash. So now if I reduce, so I'm changing the focal value from 70 mm to 35 mm. So you can see it is again going by, it has increased the shutter speed now, it says. Now again, if I want to capture the same, so I'll reduce one more thing, which is this f value. I'll keep it at f4.2, 1/30th idle speed, and I'll simply do the shot. And here it comes. Everything is overexposed in the background. So as I said, in aperture priority it's there, and this was a good photo from me, black one, and ideally balanced photo. So it's all about balancing. So we are covering multiple topics now. One more thing before we end this session. So if you want to check the photo and want to check the details, just simply press the play icon, press the up and down button. I'll show you right now, and you can go through all these readings, what photo has been clicked at what reading. So this is basically all the details that this photo is having. Copyright, you can write it up. So it was a high ISO, high noise, etc, etc, everything high, and vivid color settings that I said. Brightness was set to auto, saturation set to auto, hue set to auto. It was a Nikon D5600. Exposure, and again it was on M mode, 6400. Type of lens that we used was 18-140. Focal length 18 mm, 3.5 to 5.6. Lens specifications, VR was on, sync, etc, etc was there. So it is giving you all the details. What was the color of white, orange, green, blue, etc, etc, etc. Highlights, which was overexposed area. So it is marking me. See, it's blinking that it's overexposed and underexposed. So this will help you do much better understanding of the photographs. The camera itself can help you. So this was a small session about auto ISO and aperture for today. Next I'll be covering in tomorrow's session would be shutter, program auto. So if you like these kind of sessions, do let me know in the comment section so that we can continue. We can call some experts also to do their advanced photography techniques, and of course later on there are so many topics that I need to cover. What is these plus minus buttons can do, what are custom buttons, how to program buttons in a particular camera. So since I'm a Nikon user, so I'll be touching more or less Nikon cameras. So for me it would be Nikon D5600, and of course Nikon D500, which I use for birding typically. So I started my birding with D5600 only, and right now I'm pretty much happy with Nikon D500. So if you like this video, do share it with your friends, do share it with anybody who is looking forward. If you are interested to contribute and speak about some topics, the group Nature Wildlife Bird Photography welcomes you, right? So I'm looking forward for your contribution and definitely help this community to grow. Thank you. This is Abhinav signing off. And any questions or answers, let me check before we wind up. There was only one question which was about cost, which I've answered. So let us conclude this session. Happy birding. Thank you.